There are certain things about the world that most people never think about. We move through our daily routines, open our phones, order food, drive across bridges, take flights, turn on the lights, and we never stop to realize how many lives are quietly risked so that ours can stay comfortable. I don't blame anyone for it. It's human nature to forget what's hidden behind the things we take for granted. But every now and then, I catch myself looking closer, and suddenly, everything feels a lot more fragile and a lot more admirable. Take delivery workers, for example. It seems like such a simple job from the outside, zipping through the city, delivering packages, dropping off food. But whenever I watch one weaving between cars in the rain or the cold, backpack bouncing on their shoulders, I can't help but think, that person is risking their life for someone else's convenience. One wrong move, one distracted driver, one slippery corner, and everything changes. I've seen close calls that made my heart stop, and yet these people pick themselves up and ride again the next day. It's a kind of everyday bravery most of us never acknowledge. And construction workers, they might be the closest thing we have to modern gladiators. Every skyline we admire exists because someone stood hundreds of feet above the ground, balancing on a beam barely wider than their boots, trusting that the wind wouldn't shift and the metal wouldn't fail. I've stood near construction sites and felt that strange mix of awe and anxiety, watching them move like it's just another Tuesday. We look at skyscrapers like they're permanent, powerful, unshakable. But those buildings were born from danger, steel, sweat, and the willingness of people to risk everything for a paycheck. It's humbling when you let that sink in. Then there are farmers. Most people imagine that life is peaceful, quiet fields, big skies, open land. But behind that postcard image is one of the deadliest environments you can work in. Massive machines that can crush a person in seconds, animals that can turn violent without warning, chemicals that seep into lungs and skin, long hours alone far from any help. I've walked through farms before, and it's strange. You feel calm, but there's an underlying tension if you really pay attention. The risks aren't loud. They're subtle, hidden, and somehow that makes them even more dangerous. Logging is a whole different beast. When you stand in a forest and hear a tree crack and start falling, you realize just how small you are. Loggers face that sound every day. One miscalculation and thousands of kilos of wood come crashing down exactly where you didn't want it. Chainsaws, slippery terrain, bad weather, everything is working against them. There's no oops moment, no time to correct anything. The forest doesn't care. It will take whoever isn't paying attention. People often forget about flight attendants when they talk about dangerous jobs. But the truth is, they deal with chaos in the sky constantly. Not just turbulence or emergency landings, though those alone are terrifying, but medical emergencies, fires, panicking passengers, violent passengers, exhaustion, dehydration, long hours. They're trained to fight fires at 30,000 feet, to restrain violent people, to save lives. Their job is far more intense than most realize. When I fly, I always look at them differently. Calm on the surface, but always ready for something to go wrong. Mining feels like stepping into another world. Down there, the air is thick, the walls feel alive, and the darkness is absolute. I've seen footage of miners underground, and it's almost claustrophobic just to watch. The idea that one spark can create a fireball, or that the ceiling can collapse without warning, it's a kind of danger that never really leaves your mind once you think about it. Those people walk into the earth every day, knowing that it might swallow them whole. That's courage few people talk about. Policing is a different type of danger, psychological as much as physical. Every call, every stop, every knock on a door carries uncertainty. I've spoken to officers who said the scariest part of the job isn't the gunfights or the arrests, it's the unpredictability. The routine moments that suddenly turn violent, the burden of responsibility, the memories that don't fade when the uniform comes off. It changes people, sometimes slowly, sometimes all at once. And then there are the electricians who work with voltage levels that can kill a person instantly. Electricity is silent, invisible. It doesn't warn you before it strikes. Every time they take a tool in their hand, They know one mistake is final. No second chances. I've always respected that calm confidence they carry. Not arrogance, but an understanding that fear and focus need to work together. Pilots of small aircraft live in a completely different reality than commercial pilots. Small planes don't forgive mistakes. Weather doesn't forgive mistakes. Engines don't care that you're alone at night over a forest or mountain or ocean. These people fly into storms for medical deliveries, emergency supplies, remote rescues, and sometimes they don't come back. When a small plane goes down, the chances of survival are painfully low, but still, they fly. Fishing on open seas, that's one of the few jobs where nature itself is the enemy. I've watched waves on videos big enough to swallow boats whole. You can almost feel the cold of the water through the screen. Ice on the deck, slippery ropes, nets heavy enough to drag a grown man into the ocean in seconds. It's hard to imagine walking onto a ship knowing each season claims lives. And yet people do it because that's how they feed their families. And war. Soldiers and mercenaries face a level of danger most of us can't even comprehend. Bullets, explosions, smoke, chaos. I've listened to stories from veterans, and the part that always strikes me isn't the combat. It's the silence afterward. The way their voices change when they talk about things they saw. That kind of danger leaves marks that never heal completely. It takes something from you, even if you physically make it home. Workers on oil rigs and in chemical plants face risks on a scale most people don't understand. Toxic leaks, gas that can kill in seconds, explosions so massive they light up the sky. One tiny error, a loose bolt, a faulty gauge, and an entire facility can turn into a firestorm. These workers walk among substances powerful enough to destroy entire ecosystems, and they do it every day. But the job that always makes my heart tighten is the one done high above the ground. Tower climbers, wind turbine technicians, skyscraper builders. Watching someone climb a radio tower hundreds of meters high with nothing but a harness and the wind screaming around them, it almost doesn't look real. Every movement is deliberate. Every decision matters. There's no room for fear, but also no room for complacency. If they fall, that's it. The margin for error doesn't exist. And yet, these are the people who keep our communication, power, and cities functioning. When I think about all these jobs together, I realize that the world is held up by people most of us never notice. People who risk their lives to keep everything moving. They don't get applause. They don't get fame. Most of the time, they don't even get a thank you. But without them, society would collapse in days. So whenever you see a tall building, or your lights turn on, or your package arrives, or your plane lands safely, or your food is on your table, take a second. Think about the people behind it, the courage it took, the danger they faced, the sacrifices they made. The world doesn't run on technology alone. It runs on human beings willing to face danger so the rest of us don't have to. And that's something worth remembering.